Tools must be absolutely sharp for whatever work you do, be it woodwork, or be it metal work, or be it stone work. It's got to be sharp. And it really doesn't matter what kind of chisel you have, be it a metal chisel, be it a stone chisel, or a wood chisel, or even your granddad's chisels. They all have to be sharp, and for that you're going to need a special tool, a sharpening tool and a grinding tool. And here it is, the NTS 250 Pro from ToolMania. It has a grinding stone of 250 millimeters and 50 mil wide. This is a whetstone based on aluminum oxide, and you have a water bucket on the bottom, so that you need to fill up before you're going to use it. And keep in mind that you will have to do the bell test before you're going to use this. In the same packet you will find a bracket. This is the bracket, which you can slide in and out and adjust to the right height. And you have a guide for sharpening. This is the guide, and we'll talk about this later on how to use that. You can also use the guide in the back, like so, depending on how you want to sharpen. You can sharpen tools in the direction of the wheel, so going along with the wheel or against the wheel. If you go against the wheel, then you get much faster cuts, but it's not as fine as you're going along with the wheel. On the other side you find a stropping wheel, which is a leather belt which you need to oil, which is used really for sharpening. So this is a grinding side, this is a sharpening side. You turn it on and off with the two buttons, and you can adjust the speed between 90 and 160 RPMs. Now those are the rotations per minute of the wheels and not of the motor. The motor itself runs at 1480 RPMs inside and is a 200 watts motor. There's also a drawer with it, and it comes with a combination sharpening stone, and it comes as well with a guide for angles. So whenever you need to set up a certain cut, you select the right angle here and then you put it on the stone and then you can do the cut. We'll be looking at all this, so I'm very curious to see how good this machine is going to work. But overall it looks very nice and it looks very well machined. First, do an inspection of the stone and see that the stone is not chipped or cracked anywhere. That's very important because that could happen during transport. So check that out before you even turn it on. Now this stone looks quite good. Now the next thing we're going to do is the bell test on the stone, and therefore we need to remove the stone from the grinder. So let me remove the water bucket first. There we go. For the bell test, make sure that the machine is unplugged. And the key 19 fits, and release the nut, hold the wheel so it doesn't turn. And now we can remove the wheel. Now let's do the bell test, and it's very simple as the name implies. The grinding stone should sound like a bell. It is nothing more than ticking on the stone and listen to the sound, and it should sound solid and equal all around. It should sound almost like a bell. Use a piece of wood to tap it, but don't tap it too hard, and either hold it with your finger through the hole or another piece of wood. I'm going to stick a piece of wood through that, which is my old spoon. Then lift it up and tap it. Tap all around, and this sounds solid. This sounds like a solid stone, so this stone is good and ready to be used. So let's put it back. The stone passed the bell test. If it didn't, then you have to get another stone, put the piece up that centers the stone, and then slide it on there gently. There we go. There's another piece that sits already in the stone. If you get a new stone, that won't come with it, so you will have to fit it in. And then put the nut up. You don't need to turn too hard on it. You might want to hold the other side a bit if the axle is turning on you. Hook up the water bucket again, and again I haven't filled any water in it, but there's markers on here, minimum level, maximum level. And don't use the stone without water. And keep filling up the level if that's necessary. And keep the water clean as well. There we go. So now let's fill up the basin with water and pour enough water in it and stick it to the level. So this is the upper level. I'm going to fill it to the max because the stone will suck up some water. There we go. And make sure that the water is clean and change it every so often once it gets dirty. Let us now spin it up for the first time and see how it goes. Power on. And I'm just going to let it run a little bit. And you can see that there's an indication here and it says 90 because this mill is adjustable between 90 and 160 rotations per minute on the grinding wheels. The motor itself is running 1450 RPMs, quite a bit different. And with this knob, you can actually increase the speed. And you can see it incrementing. Give it a bit of time to increment. And you can get it all the way up to about 160. Now I see, then it starts pouring a bit the water, as you can see. So I'm going to keep it at around 90. And now it's going back down again. And it's running very smoothly. I'm going to let it run a little bit. So I need to add some water because the stone is sucking up water the first time. So you need to keep filling that up until the stone is saturated. So don't start grinding right away. The grinding wheel comes with an attachment, and this attachment is an aid to sharpen or grind your pieces. You can stick it on the top like so. There's even an adjustment ring here. And then you can adjust it until it hits about 3 millimeters between the stone and the bar. You need to keep it close, so no more than 3 mil. Because otherwise your piece may be caught in it. And now we can sharpen some pieces, and we can sharpen against the direction of the stone. And sharpening against the direction of the stone is something like this. Now this will take off a lot of metal on the chisel, but it will not be very precise. Now you can also sharpen with the direction of the grinding mill. And that is a lot better for fine work. And then you place the attachment in the back. Here we go. And then you place your working piece in the right angle, like so. Now this is a support bar, and grinding mill will now take off less material of your chisel, but it will be far more precise. Now obviously you don't want to keep it on the same spot, you want to keep moving that around while you're grinding. Now if you really want to go for precision grinding, then you have this extra tool here. Now you can slide it on there, and now you can put your workpiece in between the clamps and then work in the right angle. So let me open that up a bit. Now I've placed some extra washers underneath. They didn't come with it, and the reason for that is that some of my chisels are very thin and I couldn't push the plate all the way to the end. But everybody has some washers, right? So let's see if we can get this sorted out. Now let me put the chisel in. Right, and I'm not worried too much about the angle yet. Just want to make it straight. Right, so this allows me to move left and right, and I can place it under a certain angle. Now the angle is going to be affected by how far I'm going to move this in and out. Right, so if I move it further, then I have a steeper angle. If I make it closer, then I have a less steep angle. So this is how you can adjust it. And grinding your tools at the right angle is very important for a proper cut. And the tool comes with this little template here, which is having different angles all around. It has 8 different angles. These are these little holes here. And then you can select whatever angle you need, 40 degrees, 25 degrees, 40 degrees, and so on, 30, 35, 25, 60 degrees, whatever you're going to need. And these are the angles right here. So fit your tool in there, right, something like that. This isn't the right fit, but okay, let's assume it is. And then once you've done that, then it's enough to keep that in mind and then place it on the stone, and then you can align the 8 that we just looked at properly, and then you're going to grind at the right angle. And this side is a bit special because here you have a rubber belt going around, and this is really sharpening. This is not grinding. Now before you're going to use it, you can use some fine machine oil and oil it in. It doesn't have to drip, but just make it wet enough. And then you can use some special paste on it and rub the paste around it, nicely around it, and now you can sharpen knives really sharp or chisels really sharp, but always sharpen with the direction of the wheel, never against it, because otherwise you may cut the rubber belt. Now, so before you use it, you have to oil it. Now, I like to use WD-40, but of course that's entirely up to you what you like to use. Some people like to use machine oil. I like DW40, I always like that. It works in all cases. So saturate it like so. It doesn't have to drip, of course. And you may have to wet it again every time you're going to use it. And you'll see the areas that are not saturated yet, they will be a bit lighter in color. But I think we're almost there. I'm going to clean up a bit the excess oil. And now I think it's time to give it a try. The first test is now going to be one where we're going to sharpen against the direction of the stone. And I already lowered my guide very close to the stone. And remember when I mentioned 3 mil, this is the gap where we're talking about. So let's try it with this chisel. And this is a beaten up chisel. I mean, you know, you couldn't even cut yourself on it anymore. So let's try that. And we're going to do a cut against the rotation of the wheel. So it's a fast cut, not very precise. And I'll do it without an 8. I'm just going to hold it like this and see how that goes. I'm going to let the stone get wet. And now let's start and do this. This works quite nice. And I think the stone is cutting really well. You can start seeing it's coming along, but of course this chisel has been grinded before very badly, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So we got some cut already, as you can see, but of course this is not a nice cut because I wasn't holding it properly. Now let me put the 8 up and then try to get the right angle. So I'm going to raise that a bit so I can put the 8 up properly. And here's the 8, and I'm going against the stone like so, right? And now I have to put my chisel in, and of course the angle has to be identified, and this is about the angle I want to have it. Now a little bit can change, because if I'm going to lower this, see how the angle is changing, and I'm going to lower it a bit more and then just see if I got the right angle. So this is something you need to find out a bit for yourself, and then make sure that the chisel is straight on and lock it in place. And I think this is about right. Now what angle you're going to need, that depends on the tool, and this is something you guys have to figure out for yourself. I'm not going to tell you how you have to do it. There we go. So let's start it and see what happens. I'm going to let the stone to get wet a bit, and now we can just do that. And now things are so much easier for us. And I keep moving it back and forth, back and forth. You might have to check it every so often. This is really a great tool. It works nice and pleasant. So this is the first grind that we've done against the direction of the stone, and I have to say the tool is working very well, and it's fairly precise as well. So now I'm going to do the same chisel in the other direction, because it isn't all that sharp yet. It's getting there, but not all that sharp, and that's because we were going against the stone. Now let's go with the stone. If you want to start grinding in the direction of the stone, then you get a much cleaner and sharper cut. It's a bit slower, but it is better. So let's move this bar over to the other side and then see where we have to set it. See this adjustment ring? You can use this to set the precise distance. So let's put this up and then put the chisel in. And I want to make sure I can move it back and forth the way I'm supposed to. I don't know yet about the angle. That's still something to be checked. But I think this is about the right angle that I want to have it. So I'm going to lock that in place. You can see it goes down a little bit when you lock it, but that looks good. And once this bar is locked, and you have your chisel as well straight onto the piece, which I have not for the moment. You have to align that a bit. All right. Make sure you do that. And then tighten down. There we go. Check the cut. Feels already very sharp. Let's give it a bit more. So let's see if it's sharp or not. Now on the stopper belt, you should only sharpen the tools in the direction of the belt, so from the back side. So first of all, we're now going to apply some cutting paste. And you apply it on the wheel. And you rub it open. This was certainly worthwhile, the investment. Now this wheel is 200 mil, the big one is 250, so we need to adjust the angle a bit. Alright, so the tool goes back on, and here's our chisel. Let's put the chisel up and see what the angle is. I want to have it right. Yeah, that's about right. And we lock it in place. All right. So let's see how sharp that is. So let's check it. Ah, this is real sharp. So let's see how good it is. Oh, this is cutting real nice, guys. Look. And if you're still not happy with the end result, but this is really good, then you can use out of the drawer a sharpening stone built out of aluminum oxide, the same as the big grinding wheel. By the way, the big grinding wheel is a 220 grit, and on this sharpening stone you have different grit, a fine one and a more coarse one. So you can use the manual sharpening stone, and again I'm going to put DW40 on it, because you should always sharpen things wet. Some people use water, but I like DW40. And then place your chisel, the right angle, and keep turning. This is the old way of doing it, and I'm sure that many of you have done this in the past. But to be honest, the tool from ToolMania is a lot better and faster. So folks, this grinder and sharpener from ToolMania is working just perfect. It does what it's supposed to do. I like the adjustable RPMs. It is very solid and rigid. The wheels are pretty well balanced. There's not a lot of wobbling going on. A little bit on the rubber belt here, the stopper, but okay, that's quite normal. And then it's also mounted on rubber feet. I didn't show you that, but it has rubber feet, so it's solid on the table. You don't need to bolt it down. And for the rest, I think ToolMania, this is really a winner and a great tool to sharpen your chisels and your knives and whatever you have. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.